let's say we have signals on our chart. We can see we've got some longs and shorts, but I have this other rule that I want to use to exclude signals. So if I go and plug this other rule in that I've named exclude these signals to make it really obvious what it is, we're saying I've detected some condition. I've got a few signals here, but instead of the more common thing that you see where you say, hey, I require both of these to be true, right? If that's all you're doing, you add an AND node and you say, only give me a signal when this guy and this guy is producing the same signal on the same bar, right? So that's very limiting. That says, give me only those few signals that line up between the two. But what if instead of giving you all the signals that match, what if you want to use this guy to actually block signals from the broader system, right? Let's start marking these, and then hopefully it'll become more clear what the goal is. So I'm going to mark all the bars that I plan to block, right? So I'm going to take all of these signals. Now, if we go back to our original system, this is my broader system, my signals. If we go back here, my goal here is to allow all the signals we see here except for this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And those will be no signal at all. That's the goal, okay? So to do this, let's go back to our blocker. This is our planned blocking signals. We got to do two things. At first, your instinct might be, well, let's just invert our signals, right? Because inverting will take all our signals and revert them or reverse them. So all the ones that were off, so if I go back here, turn that off, all the signals that had no signals, or all the bars that had no signals, will now have filter signals, meaning green and red, long and short on the same bar, meaning allow all my signals on those bars. But the problem with inverting it is it doesn't take away these guys. It'll just change them from long to short. Now, if you want to block the original signal and keep the reverse, so if you say only block, let me go back here, only block long signals, but allow shorts on this guy, and allow short on this guy, allow shorts on these, allow shorts on this, or allow long on this, then simply inverting our signals, going from short to long, long to short, just doing that, we're done, right? So here's our original. If I add this, we're now blocking only the ones that were, remember, this one was long originally. This guy was, let's see. Yeah, so here we're blocking the long because we had a long originally. So long there. This one, if I disconnect that, that was a long, and so we're going to block that long. This guy was a short, and so we're going to block that short. Hope that makes sense. But if we want to instead, if we go back to our blockers, turn off the inverter, if instead we want to fully block, meaning I don't care if it's a long or short here, I want to block all of these bars from getting any signal, we got to take one extra step, and that is to first turn it into a filter signal. Now I'm going to just do it and then we'll work backwards. So I'm going to add the long short modifier. And as you know, the long short modifier allows us to take signals and modify them in some way. So as you can see in the default, it's swap mode, but we can ignore that because actually what we want to do is set it to a mode called difference. Now the documentation talks about what these modes do, but effectively what difference does, what this mode does, is says, I don't care what it was originally, long or short, I'm going to turn it into the filter signal, this nice ugly brown color signal, which means that it's non-directional. It's a signal regardless of direction, long and short on all of these, right? So now we're set up, we got one extra step. Now all we got to do is invert this guy. So if I take that long short modifier, invert it, now we're taking all the bars that had no signal before, we're going to allow those, long and short, but we're blocking all the ones that had signals of either direction. We're saying, I don't care if it was a long or short originally, let's just block it. And so by connecting this to the AND node, let me plug this directly in. So here's our original signals, and watch the chart. All the diamonds, all the ones that we marked for our reference, will disappear completely. Let me plug this in. So now we've blocked that guy, regardless of direction, that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. Because we're saying we had signals originally, we've turned them into non-directional signals. Let me take that inverter off. So here's our original, green, green, red. We've turned it into non-directional filter signals. We're saying it's no longer long or short, it's both. And then we invert that so that we are only going to block those signals. Those are no longer allowed signals. Those are now blocked. And so when we add it, combine it with our original system, we're now allowing all of the other signals. Remember, all of these are filter signals. So these are allowing the original signals and only blocking these by having no signal at all. So if we go back, we're saying allow all of these except for these, because they no longer have a signal coming from this guy, and so the AND node will prevent it from showing up at all. I hope that makes sense. I know this is sort of hard to wrap your head around if you haven't done this stuff before, but play with this concept. If you have a specific thing you want to block, and you can target that thing. For example, I've seen people do this with the candlestick pattern indicator, for example, where it just produces really distinct signals. And the person says, hey, I've got signals, but I want to not allow a signal when this chart pattern appears. You can do that by following this pattern. You say, find the condition you want to block, turn it into a filter signal, and then invert it. You're basically saying, find the condition, make it non-directional, and then invert it so that it's only blocking those specific conditions. I hope that makes sense. Leave a comment down below if this was confusing, if you understood it, if you tried it and it worked or didn't work for you, and if you have any suggestions for more simple videos. That's my role here, is I'm going to start making more of these simple videos that may be too simple for Zach to do in his weekly workshops, just so we have a collection of examples you can work from. So hope that helps. Have a great day.